And talk about the likes of Nelson Mandela, young man at the forefront of the African liberation struggle in South Africa. You can talk about the likes of Walter Sisulu, Govan Mbeki, the father of Thabo Mbeki of South Africa. You can talk about Jomo Kenyatta of Kenya. These are all young people who are passionate about their continent, who, brought to bear their sense of creativity, their energy, to bring about the liberation struggle. We can talk about compatriots in Nigeria and elsewhere, in Algeria. In Algeria, when they fought the French and drove the French away, it wasn't senior citizens who did that. It was, young people full of energy, who were able to say enough of what was happening in their country, and they drove the French out of their country. We can even go as far as places like Cuba and talk about Fidel Castro and Raul Castro and all the comrades, Che Guevara, who stood shoulder to shoulder, with a great Fidel Castro to fight for Cuba's independence and Cuba's liberation from colonization and interference from the United States of America.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's edition of Unpopular Opinion. On today's episode, I am truly excited to have with us Honorable Ras Mubarak. He is a former member of the Ghanaian Parliament and a fierce advocate for youth development, youth empowerment in economic and political development across Ghana. He is a strong voice for social justice and equality across Ghana. But before I turn the platform over to him, I want you all to please be a supporter of this channel. If you want to see better studio, if you want to see quality equipment in our studio, if you want to see better guests on this platform, if you want to see an improved podcast, I want you all to please subscribe to this channel, like, comment, and share, as well as you can recommend individuals that are doing remarkable works in their various countries. We will try our best to bring them on this platform to discuss the critical roles that they are playing in their various countries. Today's video is proudly sponsored by Magnite Global Brand. If you are living in Europe or in any part of the world and you need an African clothing, you can simply check them up on their Instagram page. The link is in the description of this video. Honorable Ras Mubarak, thank you very much for being here. And we are excited to have you on this podcast today. I believe that the audience would like to know who is Honorable Ras Mubarak. What drove that passion in you to have that stand where young people should be included in political participation and economic development in Ghana?
Mohammed Sharif, thank you very much for the opportunity to be on your platform and to engage with the young men and women of the great continent of Africa. And I believe platforms like this would offer young people across the continent and beyond an opportunity to be inspired. So Ras Mubarak is a Ghanaian politician, a champion advocate for youth development, for social justice, for women's empowerment, for good governance, and so on and so forth. I am the first member of parliament in Ghana's history to successfully sponsor a private member's legislation throughout, Ghana's history of our parliamentary democracy. No single member of parliament has been successful at sponsoring a private bill. I was the first to do that. And it's a cup in the feather of young people, of course, before my election as member of parliament, I was the head of the National Youth Authority of Ghana, where I was given an opportunity by President John Mahama to champion the causes of young people, So over the years, we've been doing this and being actively involved in politics. But I'm from Ghana, as you may be aware. I was born in the beautiful city of Tamale, which is in the north of Ghana, about 450 kilometers from the national capital, Accra. But I grew up in the middle of the country, at a place called Kumasi, um, which is a green zone. It used to be the golden city of Ghana. I don't know what has happened, to that yet. But my passion for youth development, empowerment of young people stems from the fact that um, when young people are involved, we bring to the table our energy, we bring to the table our creativity, we bring to the table our sense of innovation, we bring to the table, our passion as young people. And even though young people may not have certain experiences in government or at the workplace, but they come to the table with something that cannot be done away with, something very invaluable, which is the innovation, the energy, the creativity of young people, and throughout history, whether the biblical times, whether prehistoric times, whether colonial era or post-colonial era, young people have always been at the forefront of bringing about change. And if you want to put it in biblical contexts, Jesus Christ himself was a young man, who from birth performed a lot of miracles. The Prophet of Islam, Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, a young man, who did made works. And you can mention several um, prophets of God in the Bible and the Quran who uh, were very energetic and did many great things. So that's the religious perspective of why young people should be at the forefront. And indeed, when all of these prophets led, they performed well, to the admiration of many. Today, Christ and Muhammad and the other prophets are all, looked up to for inspiration, for guidance, etc. You can also look at the political perspective or the political contexts. And I use Ghana as a classical example. When we got our independence, it wasn't, older or senior citizens who were at the forefront. It was young people, people in their 20s and 30s and early 40s, who were at the forefront of bringing about change. And Nkrumah himself was a young man, and you can go to periods that, came after Kwame Nkrumah. We may remember the name Jerry John Rawlings, young military officer who became president of Ghana and led our country for many years. Under his administration, Ghana was going through what, in economic terms, in those era of the late 70s and early 80s, we called the structural adjustment program. It was young people who brought Ghana from the doldrums, from the dark days, into light. You can even mention President Kufuor, who belongs to a different political party as I am. But President Kufuor became a young minister in the administration of Prime Minister Buzia in the 60s, when he was thinking about 31 years or so. You can talk about the likes of Nelson Mandela, young man at the forefront of the African liberation struggle in South Africa. You can talk about the likes of Walter Sisulu, Govan Mbeki, the father of Thabo Mbeki of South Africa. You can talk about Jomo Kenyatta of Kenya. These are all young people who are passionate about their continent, who, brought to bear their sense of creativity, their energy, to bring about the liberation struggle. We could talk about compatriots in Nigeria and elsewhere, in Algeria. In Algeria, when they fought the French and drove the French away, it wasn't senior citizens who did that. It was, young people full of energy, who were able to say enough of what was happening in their country, and they drove the French out of their country. We can even go as far as places like Cuba and talk about Fidel Castro and Raul Castro and all the comrades, Che Guevara, who stood shoulder to shoulder, with a great Fidel Castro to fight for Cuba's independence and, Cuba's liberation from, colonization and interference from the United States of America. You can even talk about music, you can talk about Bob Marley, you can talk about Fela, you can talk about the many great artists, who have emerged from, the Black community or the African community. And these were all young people. So the world cannot thrive without, young people being a part of, what is happening in the world today. I mean, you see that the president-elect of the US of A has a running mate who is fairly young, and that is the spirit, that is the mindset with which Africans would have to look at, leadership. You can talk about the likes of Robert Mugabe, when he led his country to fight for independence from the British. Mugabe was fairly a very, very young man in his 30s, who stood up and fought for his people. So over the years, whether in commerce or industry or music or boxing or sports, it's always been young people at the forefront. So I want to see a lot of young people, not just in Ghana, but throughout the continent of Africa, bringing a leading change, and being given an opportunity. Unfortunately, for us on the continent of Africa, a lot of young people would have to work twice as hard to get their leg in the room. They have to bootleg or kiss somebody's backside or behind, to be given an opportunity. But I think the more young people we give opportunities, the better for the development and growth of the continent of Africa and our transformation as people. Because I don't think Africa ought to be where it is now. We are far left behind. And I see this coming from a man who has traveled extensively across continents. I've done like 86 countries around the world, So I've seen what others are doing in their respective countries. And I know that Africa could do a lot better if we have a lot of young people leading industry, leading religious institutions, leading politics, etc.
All right. Thank you very much. You touched a lot of interesting points that we might discuss along the line. You know, uh, One of the key areas that I want us to look at is the young people exclusion. Uh, the African Union was launched in 2002 in South Africa, Durban, and the African Union made a policy. All right. Sorry, I think that was a technical fault. As I was saying, thank you very much for that background explanation. And you spoke about a lot of key points, and you talk about a lot of few great icons that young people or Africans consider to be leaders par excellence. The African Union developed a term in 2002 after the formation of the AU. They call it the youth term. And in that policy, it says that the African Union is going to be able to sit with the young people to discuss issues that are affecting the young people and be able to make policy that make positive impacts on the lives of the young people across the continent. But today, we see that young people are not given seats to sit on the table to discuss issues that are affecting them. And all of these issues or policies that are being made about the young people are made by older generation without understanding the young people, without understanding what the young people are going through. What do you think is the cause of that? And how do you think we can be able to address that issue, not just in Ghana, but taking it into an African context?
Very important question, but you're going to have to put things in proper perspective, which is that culture. Now, many African societies have cultures where young people don't have a voice. And growing up, you couldn't even put your, you couldn't even sit around when your parents or guardians or elders were having certain kind of conversations. You know, we have raised to believe that whatever the older people say is the truth and and right. For which reason there's a bit of intimidation. Fortunately, all of those things are happening. I mean, you should watch a video of my 8-year-old daughter, talking about climate change, talking about poverty, talking about streetism, and It is stuff like that that gives us hope as parents, as young parents, that the future can only be bright for Africa. So the reason why many African countries are uneasy to have young people at the table is because of this culture of young people not having a voice in bigger discussions. But I think those things have to change, and those senior citizens or older people who are of that kind of opinion are feeling a sense of insecurity because they know that when young people get an opportunity, they would outshine them. They would do things differently. They would do things better. I'm not saying I'm not saying that every senior citizen or older person is rubbish, but really and truly, if you have older people who can't use a computer, obviously, if there's a young person who can use a computer very well, they should feel intimidated by that person. So historically, culturally, you are burdened with this issue of how to strike a balance between respecting and honoring culture. And I'm not saying we should throw away our culture for Western or European values. That's not what I'm saying. But there are aspects of our culture that do belong to the relics of history, that belong to the dustbins of history, where young people are intimidated into silence. Sometimes, uh, sort of ideas young persons or people have, senior citizens with all their experiences in life don't even have those kinds of positive ideas. So things are changing, even though they are a bit slow. What I think we can do is to keep empowering more young people to know that they have a say and their opinions matter, and to also engage our senior citizens and to let them know that we cannot throw away experience and that they ought to even be from behind the scenes and proffer or offer, ideas and suggestions to these young people who may find themselves in position of responsibility. I mean, today, everywhere you go on the continent of Africa, people still mention Kwame Nkrumah. They still mention Thomas Sankara of uh, Burkina Faso. They still mention Patrice Lumumba, the great Patrice Lumumba of the Congo, etc. Nelson Mandela is still held in high esteem. So these are people and personalities from the African continent who distinguish themselves very, very well. And senior citizens who feel intimidated by young people should look up to these, leaders who've served their countries very well and say, wait a minute, there's actually nothing wrong with being a young person because they have been young people as well. And they should attest to the fact that when one is young, the energy level is even different, the creativity, the passion to bring about change and to do things well are quite different, and people shouldn't feel intimidated or scared by the presence of young people. Young people are there to only complement and to make things better, and I believe at the family level, and because this shouldn't be something that has to start at the state level. Yeah. As I say, charity begins at home. So at the family level, young couples who have kids would have to begin to listen to their children. And I remember again, so I have four daughters. My oldest daughter, then she was about 7 or 8. There was a day I received a phone call from a radio station for an interview early in the morning, and I was driving to drop them in school. And she said, Daddy, but you can't drive and pick up a phone. I mean, you said it was a bad habit. Kids were in the car. I pulled up, did my interview, and carried on. So kids are observing, and the things that we do today are the things that they grew up with. If you are a parent who is engaged in road rage, your children are going to grow up thinking road rage is all right. If you're corrupt, children are going to grow up thinking, corruption is all right. But these things are not all right. So the building Africa would require the efforts and contributions of not just young people also, but also, old people with some experience, but not just old people with some experience, but old people who are passionate about their country, who are patriotic. Because there are a lot of old people who have no good intentions, for their respective countries, and so we want to see more and more young people in positions of responsibility.
I want us to come to you. You have lived your life through advocating for social justice, equality, and in Ghana. So I'd like to understand, what role do you think uh, youth activism plays in nation building, and youth activism can be able to help to have an equal society in Ghana where young people are not intimidated to participate and they are able to participate within the confines of the law, respecting the senior citizens, as you've said.
I mean, young people must never ever feel intimidated. They must never ever give up, And I've been involved in so many demonstrations that I can remember. And sometimes, if you want to go far, you go alone. I remember when I organized a demonstration against the apartheid state of Israel in Ghana, several years ago. A lot of young people didn't want to get involved because, they had politicized the thing and made it as if it was a religious thing. Eventually, they saw wisdom in what I was advocating and championing for, you know. And if you look at the most recent mass protest in Ghana, which was organized by a group of young folks who call themselves Fix the Country. But for young people, the issues that they are trying to amplify would not have been amplified as much as it has, So the contribution of young people to nation building is invaluable, you know. And a lot of them quite contribute their resources as well. But, whether young people who've got their own businesses or who are searching or who are out of job, there is hope. And they've got to keep faith alive and not to, feel intimidated and not pursue their vision and their dreams. Things are changing quite rapidly. And I can tell you that even the older folks are beginning to change, to adapt to new ways and new thinking and new ways of doing things. I mean, once upon a time, you couldn't even tell a Ghanaian adult about computers. Today, they use computers, and they even try to teach their grandchildren how to use computers, etc. So the benefits are enormous. The challenges are daunting, and as young people, we've got to be able to put our shoulders to the wheel and say that, look, this is about us. The senior citizens have had, their time. We're not showing disrespect to them, but we just want to make sure that we are seated right at the big table so that when the big decisions are being made by uh, all and sundry, we would make sure that our voice is loudly heard.
Uh, in Ghana, I've interviewed a couple of young people from Ghana, and one of the critical issues that a lot of them talk about is reform within the system. And a lot of there's been a lot of discussions on reform, on different policy in terms of youth integration or in economic, in political participation, but all of these reform are yet to be actualized. The actualization is a critical problem. So what do you think are some of the structural change that are essential for this reform to take place, where young people will be able to participate and also feel accountable once they participate in a process?
Leadership. With the right set of leadership on the African continent, we'll go far. So young people themselves should stop being corrupt. Should stop taking stop taking money from politicians before they go vote on important national issues. They should, just be themselves and work hard. That's what I could say.
That would be a question like, how do you work hard when you don't have the environment to work hard? How do you thrive better? Comparing where I am, let's say I'm living in Europe, there are so much opportunity for young people to strive and be able to live a better life. But young people living maybe in Ghana and comparing someone living in France or someone living in Portugal or in Spain, the opportunities are different. There's a huge disparity comparing the standard of living. So how do you strive when you do not have competitive opportunity to strive for?
So again, leadership, because our leaders would have to negotiate for the right set of policy. They are representing us, and they shouldn't be negotiating for things that are inimical, to our development and growth as a people. They should be forthright. And the thing is that if we have young people joining all of these negotiations, a lot of the negotiations could be tightened up. But at the stand now, it's very loose, and it would take a bit of revolution, a bit of shake up, a bit of some noise, and some punish and some finesse as well, and a bit of aggression to get things done. Because sometimes the African man doesn't understand please, please, please. So you've got to do what you got to do.
You've been in the parliament of Ghana, and I like to understand at what point in time in that part of your life that you felt so pressure and you were at the verge of losing, or you were at the verge of doing something that you shouldn't have done, and how were you able to overcome that challenge?
I can't recall any such situation, but what I can tell young people is that if you ever find yourself in a situation where you feel pressured, just calm down, take a deep breath, drink some water or sip water, and tell yourself it's going to be a lovely day. So the African youth needs a can-do spirit, and we just have to keep striving. I mean, Nigeria didn't become independent on a silver platter, neither did Ghana or Sierra Leone or South Africa or Kenya. Everybody has had their share of xenophobia, which is a discrimination against foreigners, etc. So I think we're gonna have to step up our game, and work a little harder for our people, make some money, and go and run for bigger things. If the people vote for you, so be it. If they don't, life goes on. But I often hear from young people as well, hey, you were like you, and you got somebody to finance your campaign. Nobody, I read my lips, nobody financed my campaign pretty much of the time. It was towards the end, tail end of the campaign when we could get, a little here, a little there, but throughout the campaign, it's been our own, efforts. And we are very proud of our record of service, what we have done for young people, etc. It's enormous, incredible, and you have people like me all over the continent of Africa, people who are even a lot more passionate than I am, but perhaps they don't have the network that I have, they don't have the intimidation, etc. So look, the future is great for the youth of the continent because we are in an era where whatever you want to do, you can do it, from your fingertips. We don't have to even go anywhere to cut up the video, or slides or whatever it is that you want to do. So, as somebody would say, Black Lives Matter, but young people's lives matter. The post.
Coming down towards your political career, and you started your political career and you became a lawmaker. You are nationally recognized. Your name is a household name. I want to understand at the beginning stage of your career, what was the most critical aspect of it, And what was the most difficult challenge that you experienced at that point? And how were you able to overcome all of those challenges and rose to where you are today?
So it's always difficult for young people to run for office. That is the most difficult part. But if you're able to overcome that hurdle, when I ran, so I first contested for national youth organizer of my party in 2009. I lost. I didn't give up. I contested to be the MP for a constituency called Ablikuma North in Accra. I won my primary and lost the elections, and I went to my hometown to contest, won the primary and won the elections. And it's always been about how to raise enough resources to run around and execute the campaign. And there were moments when you felt like, yeah, damn, what am I doing? Yeah, right in the middle, almost submerged, looking like you can't go forward or you can't go back. But as a young person determined to bring about change, you overcome all obstacles and you move on. So um, of course, obstacles may come our way. Even the prophets were persecuted. Whether it's Christ or Moses or any of the prophets, they were persecuted. And so if the prophets before us were persecuted, who are we as mere mortals to complain about challenges and bottlenecks and hardships? Because those old folks endured pretty much some tough times, where means of travel was, completely non existent. I mean, today I could say my dawn prayers in Accra, and by midday, midday is even too far. Like in an hour, I'm in Lagos or Abuja in Nigeria. That's the power of technology. That's the power of doing things new and not becoming a part of the system that exploits our people, you know? And, well, there's nothing as exciting as making laws. And I enjoy the art of lawmaking in the Parliament of Ghana. Those are very interesting moments.
I want us to look at the parliament a bit. Do you think, in your opinion, that the current government in Ghana and with the parliament, with the support of the parliament, do you think they are able to, or they will be able to make significant strive or efforts in alleviating poverty in Ghana? Like we witnessed the Fix the Country protest by young people, and amongst the complaints that they raised was youth unemployment, ecological issues. Those were major issues that they raised. And how do you think? Do you think that the government will be able to improve the economic situation in Ghana?
So, if you look at the enormity of challenges facing young people, it's incredible how we have survived. But you're doing great. I mean, you've got a podcast. You are talking to thousands, millions across the continent of Africa.
I think we are coming to an end of this show, and I would love for us to do a part two of this show because I feel like there's more that we can talk about.
After the elections, trust me, because right now there's so much pressure. And
I understand there's a lot we can talk about, especially exploring the role of young people. Your role would, I have so many things that we can say, but because you've been a very busy person running campaign, and I wish you all of the best. I hope that you're going to win the election. But before I take a leave of you, I want to ask you if there's something that we didn't talk about, or there's a question that you expected me to ask and I did not ask. You can brush on that, and then we can call it a day.
no, I mean, on any day, at any time, ask any question.
I want to say thank you very much for being here, and it's been a very great pleasure to have you. And I wish you all the best in the campaign. And maybe during the inauguration, I'm gonna get invited and come and be your guest. And I'm looking forward to meeting you in person as well.
I would be very happy to, receive you in Ghana, to extend a warm invitation to you. And let me encourage you. We're doing a very good thing. Please don't give up. Even if it doesn't pay the bills, keep it up. And you'd be surprised what rewards you would reap from this, in years to come. When I started my work as a broadcast journalist many years ago, in 1997, in those days in Tamale where I started, there was only one radio station. Can you imagine? Even where I started work, but over time, over the years, people meet you and they're, oh, like, I'm so happy to see you. I used to listen to you on the radio. And it's like after 2 decades, and it's quite refreshing, to get such feedback from people who used to listen to me when I was on the radio. And today, because of technology, you don't even need a radio station. This is your radio station. So make the best of it, and trust me, you'd go far.
Thank you very much, Honorable Ras Mubarak, for taking up your time to be a guest on this platform. I'm truly looking forward to having more of these conversations with you in the future, and I wish you all the best in the election campaign. But before we take a leave of the guest, I want you all to please support this channel, like, comment, share, subscribe, recommend individuals to us that are doing remarkable works in their various countries. We'll bring them to this platform to discuss the critical roles that they are playing in their various countries. Until we meet again, Salamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh.